like to call to order the special town commission meeting of August the 31st. Please rise for the pledge of allegiance to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Mayor Tompeck,
Here.
Vice Mayor Kurzman. Let the record reflect that Vice Mayor Kurzman is not present. Commissioner Campo.
Here.
Commissioner Fender. Let the record reflect that Commissioner Fender is not present. Commissioner Mayfield.
Here.
Okay, the first item is public comment on non-agenda items, and we do have one general comment from Art Schwartz.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. Yesterday, I'm pleased to say that we had our septic system pumped out, and it was clean, inspected. Everything was great at my house, as it has been since we bought the house in 2004. Never had an issue. So I kind of asked, where is the evidence to confirm the need for South Sewells Point to undertake the expensive, disruptive, and unwanted conversion from septic to sewer? I've never seen any evidence whatsoever that an expensive, disruptive, and unwanted conversion to septic and sewer is required. I mean, I've heard a lot of talk. I've been to numerous meetings. Certainly, I respect the opinions of all you. But I haven't seen any evidence from a report that says we really need to do this, that the septic systems are causing an issue in our town. What I have seen is an ambitious engineering company advising you, town commissioners, to move ahead with an expensive, disruptive, and unwanted conversion. So the question I have to ask is, who will benefit most from the undertaking of this type of a transaction? I don't know much about CapTech other than Joe Capra attends a lot of meetings. He leads our commissioners if he was a Pied Piper. And excuse me for the crudeness of my statement, but I'm frustrated by the actions being taken by this body that have not been approved or mandated by the residents and the town people of Sewells Point. Actions that are expensive, disruptive, and unwanted should be a topic of discussion for the town. The communication has been extremely poor, if any, concerning this issue. And here we are making a pledge, essentially, to borrow millions of dollars that eventually are going to hit the taxpayer in assessments. And who benefits from this besides CapTech? I suppose Martin County. But what do the citizens get out of this type of a move? Once again, I ask, where's the evidence to confirm the need for South Sewells Point to undertake the expensive, disruptive, and unwanted conversion from septic to sewer? Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Art. We have two items of new business. The first one is Resilient Florida Grant Program, and Mr. Daniels, are you ready to give us the
Yes, just 1 minute.
an introduction, and then we'll take public comment.
Yes, sure.
Good evening. Sorry for the delay. The issue that we have in front of us under the Resilient Florida Grant Program is in reference to septic to sewer, as mentioned in the posting. What had transpired last Friday, I've got a phone call Friday night about this opportunity being there, similar to the opportunity that we addressed on the August 9th meeting, where we looked at applying for a grant for septic to sewer. The difference with this one is there's a portion of it is we can be used because it's federal dollars for, or a portion of it's federal dollars that we can use for matching the original grant that we put in. The exact dollar amounts right at this point are unknown. It is an $8 million grant that the Department of Environmental Protection has open. I thought with the commission taking the action that was taken back on August the 9th, that I would bring this one forward with all transparency, that, this is something that we can consider, which should help us with our match on the original grant that was approved back on August the 9th.
Thank you. Were there any, I guess, if I don't see any questions from the commission, but I have a couple. First of all, and I've expressed this at a couple of meetings, I am real disappointed that I can't seem to get a listing of the opportunities that we have for grants. I look at the Resilient Florida grant page that was given to us, and this portal opened on July the 1st, and here we are, August the 31st, and it's the first time we're discussing it. That's not acceptable. That absolutely is not acceptable. I don't know why we can't get a listing of the potential grants, whether it be DOT, DEO, DEP. I don't know if there's any opportunity for appropriations. Don't know what those dates are either. And I'm disappointed we have a grant writer that can't seem to get us that information. And it's just, we can't be in this position where you have to call a special meeting because a grant is due that day or the next day, and we haven't really had a chance to look at the grant or look at the application. And I don't know the way the rest of the commission feels about this, but it just doesn't work for me. On the other hand, and I understand, some of the questions that we've heard about septic to sewer and, the cost and everything. And what I think everybody doesn't quite understand, and I'll be honest with you, I don't understand all the pieces here, but trying to get all these pieces to fit together is difficult. The residents want to know, well, how much will this cost? How are we going to do this and how much will it cost? And the answer is, well, we don't know how much it'll cost. We have an idea of what the total project would cost, but we don't know how much it'll cost because we don't know how much we're going to get in grants. I think it's clear to me that the residents, and I think I shouldn't be speaking for the commission, but I think the commission agrees that nobody's interested in any kind of a mandatory assessment. So that's something I think is important for everybody to understand. We're not interested, at least I'm not interested in that. I don't think the rest of the commission is either. So I think, CapTech has been working on the report. They got the draft report from their consultant, and it's long, it's complicated, and he's trying to put it in some kind of a summary fashion that'll be easy for us to understand with all the options listed. The other thing he's doing, and it's an important piece of this puzzle, is that once he's got the options, he needs to sit down and see what Martin County is agreeable to do and what they can throw into the pot here. And to me, that's a very important piece because, if we do in fact go ahead with this conversion, they're going to get 650 customers for life. All right, so they ought to be able to throw a whole lot of money into the pot here to help us out here. So there's a lot of pieces that we're trying to mesh together here, but I don't think we want to not take advantage of at least applying for the grant and seeing if we can get it. So that's my 2 cents, and go ahead.
If I can address your concerns, and I have shared those with both entities, our town engineer and our grant writer, that it's unacceptable that we get things at the 11th hour. Number one, it puts everybody under pressure between the town staff and the commission and the residents, because I think it's in all fairness, that transparency has to be there. Obviously, we we go through great pains on even special meetings of getting out as much notice as we can for the meeting. Our town attorney, who's not here tonight because I didn't feel that we need to go through the expense on this at this juncture of having him here, but he is available. But, he assured me that, we follow the sunshine laws in reference to posting the meetings ahead of time and getting that information out. So I share with you, your concerns. I am working on a list of all of our grants that we have currently now and in being in the process, and hope to have that out in a couple days. Also, we're looking at putting the grant information on the website, so we have full transparency out there on what we have. I'm researching the grant information that I got for future grants, and I just want to make sure I have those dates down, and I'll be posting that as well and sharing with the commission.
I'm sorry, I forgot before I started yakking that we do have a public comment. Veronica Piccolo, please.
Veronica Piccolo, I live on Lucinda. You took all the wind out of my sail. Everything you just said is exactly how I feel about this. Whatever grant money we get, we are lucky now that we have money that could be matched. But that's only these grants. You're not going to get another federal piece. You're going to end up down the road getting grants that have to be matched, and the only place that's coming from is the residents. And if I lived in North Sewells Point, I would tell you all to go take a hike. They already have the sewer. They are going to be assessed for something in South Sewells Point. Why would they want to put the money out? You took everything I was going to say, John, put it in a nutshell. It's fractional, whatever we're getting. We might end up getting a bond issue or something like that to make up the difference. I really, in my heart, I really do not believe that Martin County is going to come up with a whole lot of money to bail us out. We are telling them that we don't want to go through their system. Why would they say to us, don't worry about it. Whatever you come up with, we will make you whole. I can't believe they're going to do that. So we are, as a tax-paying entity, we are going to end up residents coming up with the money. And I really can't believe that everybody's going to be happy over that. Again, you took the wind out of my sails. This is going to be mandatory. There are 3 of you who are currently sitting here who will not vote for any of this if it's mandatory. And I'm sure you've had conversations with Martin County Utilities. Whether it's mandatory to be hooked up is an issue. I think we all know they're not going to come and hammer on our doors and say, please, you have to hook up. But they are going to take the money out of our pockets. By definition, that is mandatory. So why are we going down this road, spending all this time and effort to have something that there are 3 of you who are going to vote against it? You're the majority. The last piece is that if we all shut up and didn't do anything, and you all know my position on sewer, if we all shut up and didn't do anything about the sewer as a Sewells Point entity, we would come up on a list, Martin County. And Martin County would be doing everything that you guys are doing. You wouldn't have to spend any time. They would be the operator. They would be the ones to do all the plans. They would be the ones to operate. Is Bob going to be the chief engineer representing us in this project? We can't let this run on an outside consultant. Someone in Sewells Point has to take the day-to-day operation. And if we at this point, if we continue to go ahead, we are going to be spending man-hours that we could really be spending avoiding Sewells Point from getting flooded. Because let's face it, the water is rising. So I thank you for what you said. You proved my point. I thank you all for your time, but it is very, very, very frustrating. If we just all shut up and 5 years from now came up with Martin County on the list, you guys would not be wasting your time. Thank you.
Okay. One of the other things I was thinking about here, and I think it's important consideration, is that if we can we can get some initial grant money here, it gives us the opportunity to at least put some lines in, on South Sewells Point Road when they tear it up for the road projects. I hate the idea of them tearing up the road for the road project and then a year or two later having to go back and put in sewer lines. And I think that's, I think that's, to me, that's a relatively important consideration here as well. Okay, Commissioner Mayfield?
Yeah.
I'm the only one talking.
No, I think you raised good points, and I think as most people know, I support the conversion to sewer in South Sewells Point for all of the reasons that I already mentioned, not wanting to tear up the road again, the fact that, you can look at it both ways, but the fact that Martin County sees that as something that's happening in the future, I think it's important that we take part in it and try to reduce the cost as best we can and have more control. I also think the homes, particularly on the east side that are right by the river, I think it's important to our environment. Those septic tanks are too close to the river, and I think it is beneficial for the entire peninsula to, make sure those houses are off of septic tank. So I definitely support this grant, or grant application process, I should say. I think it's very important. I'm very cognizant of costs, and to have it be reasonable and comparable to North Sewells Point. And I definitely support it. I have never, I'm very honest about this. If the cost got low enough and the only option was, a mandatory hookup with vacuum, if the costs were low, $10,000 to $12,000 per homeowner, I'm not saying I wouldn't vote for that. I'm just going to be very transparent and honest. I believe I said that to one of our residents. I'm just talking about theoretical situations that aren't occurring anytime soon. Anyways, I support going after this money to help reduce costs to convert South Sewells Point to sewer.
I think there's another important consideration here is when you're on the, and we're certainly on the Martin County list, when Martin County gets to us, they just give you an assessment. They just throw in your tax bill. That's the end of the story. They went over, they did Rocky Point, I think, which was unincorporated. And they just, I'm sorry,
North River Shores.
North River Shores.
North River Shores and also Golden Gate, I think. There wasn't any discussion. They just put it on their tax bill. And they're paying for it for 20 years. That's the end of the story. So the fact that you're on the list and that you get to them 4 or 5 years doesn't say, you're not going to save any money that way, trust me.
I know I'm talking out of turn.
You are, so please, you're out of order. You're out of order.
Anyways,
Commissioner Mayfield.
I would make a motion to approve the, I don't have it written here, to proceed with the application for the grant. If you need more information, Town Manager, in that motion, please let me know. Oh, thank you. Oh, okay. I was looking at my other one. I'd make a motion to support submitting an application for the Florida Department of Environmental Protection fiscal year 2023-24 statewide flooding and sea level rise resilience plan project implementation grant.
Do we have a second? Mr. Campo?
I'll wait for you to get the second.
You suck. I'll second.
Any additional comments?
Yeah, now I'll comment.
Okay, go ahead.
This is really just a repeat of conversations and consensus that we had, was it August 9th?
Yes.
So I want to applaud Town Manager for formalizing the procedure, advertising it, because at that meeting, it came across very disheveled. And what I am in favor of more than anything else is transparency. I'm in favor of septic to sewer conversion when the price is reasonable, when residents request it. That's what we did in North Sewells Point. North Sewells Point had 2 communities, along with some residents on Sewells Point Road, that in writing solicited the commission and said they wanted into the septic to sewer conversion. We came up with a reasonable cost of $8,000. And there were similar discussions that I've heard recently about, septic to sewer hasn't been proven, and those types of things. So I'm in favor of septic to sewer conversion when it's voluntary, when it's reasonably priced, and when the community residents have requested it. We're now doing the commercial side because 4 building owners said that they would like that. So as far as the next step, I'm glad that we're having the conversation. I'm glad that we're having transparency. I'm disappointed that the town engineer is not here. We made an attempt to have a special meeting. 5 o'clock is a rough time for me to have this type of meeting. So I understand the sentiment of, who's driving the bus. I understand that. And that's why I'm going to continue to be against the request to file this grant. That doesn't mean I'm against septic to sewer. I'm disappointed that 7 months ago, we spent over $100,000 on a study, and it sounds like some of those results are in, but we still haven't seen that. I think that the residents of Sewells Point are fair and willing to spend money when a case is made, and I think that's what lacks right now. And I get the feeling sometimes that our town engineer is spread thin, and my confidence level in continuing when we don't have the game plan mapped out ahead of time is concerning to me. I'm not saying that at some future point I might not move along with the current majority of septic to sewer under the right circumstances, but at this point I'm going to stick to the position that I've held, and that is that we need a plan, we need cost estimates before we move ahead. Now, having said all that, filing this grant does not mean that there's conversion in South Sewells Point. It doesn't mean that. We still have the ability to deny the grant once the study comes in and once we see, all the conclusions. If someone came to me tonight and said, here's the plan, it's going to cost $10 million that the town needs to buy down, and each resident is going to pay $10,000 to $12,000, I would vote for that. I would vote for that if it was voluntary. But I don't have that, and I'm all about transparency. If we make the case and we show people why the river experts are pounding the table saying you need to convert, if I looked at the plan, if I looked at the costs, and if I had the county folks in here, I would support that. So I don't want to think that I'm being obstructionist. I just don't like to have the lack of transparency, because at the end of the day, it's not just the legal authority to act on the town's behalf, it's the moral authority. And I don't think the town engineer has made that case with numbers when we've already spent 6 figures on the study. We've spent additional money analyzing the underground pipes. Now, August 8th, the issue came up, and I said the same thing that I'm going to say now. The majority of this commission wants to move ahead with the grant, the resiliency grant. So, I'm not going to stand in the way, because I hope at some point we can still work together to come up with something that's reasonable. But, the first thing you learn when you're on a commission is how to count to 3. And it used to be 2, but tonight it's 1. So I wish you the best of luck. I want to be, part of the solution and not part of the problem. And again, I want to applaud the town manager for understanding that you can't have someone come in at the last minute with an oral presentation without knowing all the implications. And it's just my hope that moving forward, you'll understand that that's not going to fly, and that's going to cause, the pitchforks to come out again. So we need to get a handle on the engineering and the cost estimates, because if we don't, it's going to be, as Veronica said, a lot of wasted time and energy.
Call the
So-
question.
I'm sorry?
There's a motion on the floor.
Right, could you please call the roll?
Sure. Commissioner Campo?
Nay.
Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck?
Yes. Okay, the next item is the sale of 78 South Sewells Point Road. Mr. Daniels, please introduce the item.
Yes, involves a property that this commission and the town staff had previously hoped to buy a portion of, and then we were in negotiations with getting an easement when those talks fell through, and then an opportunity arose that from the individual that owns this home that we buy the property. So again, we heard the cry from the town engineer and staff at the last meeting that, we need the commission's assistance, and Commissioner Campo, not to trade off accolades here, but he came to the game and ponied up some information that we were able to take and successfully try to look at purchasing this property. What I'm asking for tonight is not a agreement to come up with the sale or to purchase the property. I want to be able to research it, and again, in transparency, I want the commission to know what's going on and the residents to know what's going on. But if we can further our efforts through the resiliency project of adding to our nutrient reducing programs and utilize part of this property, and then look at once we have completed our part of the project there, we could, use the property as this commission feels fit. We can turn around and sell the remaining portion of the property, which is still got the residential structure on it, and we'll still have part of the viewpoint of the waterway and all the other pluses that property has. But it'll also allow us to take a look at what's been known as Phase 3. It's really Ridgeland and to Pineapple, thank you. I'm still trying to get all the streets down, so I don't have them all memorized, but and maybe even go a couple blocks further into either Phase 2 or Phase 4 and get more done on the same dime. And so I think this property gives those opportunities, and all I'm asking for is your permission to allow me to go back and research the financing options that we have. Along with that, negotiate with the owner of the property to come up with a deal that I can then bring back to you all with a contractual agreement for purchase of the property that's gone through the town attorney, and again, have it posted and be at a meeting and move forward from there.
Thank you. Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes, I have somewhere to be, so I'm going to head out in about 5 minutes, but I wanted to make sure I talked about this. I spoke with the town manager about this, and I mean, in some ways, it's very exciting, but I am very cautious, and I can't, this is an expensive piece of property, and I feel like we're constantly busting our butts looking for money and talking about money, and so I'm really concerned, and I really want to see it. Definitely give permission to finance, how to research how to finance. I think that's the key factor here. Is, we were squirming about buying the front part of the property, and now all of a sudden we're going to purchase the entire property. That makes me nervous. I would proceed cautiously. So this just came to my attention, so I haven't given it that much thought. Definitely, like I said, research how to finance it. The negotiating and the working with the town attorney, I would be cautious of the costs spent with the town attorney and, in this, with the negotiation. But I just wanted to make sure I said that, because we have an ambitious capital improvements project plan we just looked at.
Yes.
And this would definitely be affecting all those cash flows we just looked at. And so I think it's a big deal. That's it.
Well,
Commissioner Campo?
we've made an enormous attempt to try to be here today, so can you just stick with me for 5 minutes?
Yeah, yep, I can do 5 minutes.
The purchase of property or water outfall access in that vicinity has been going on for over a year, and we've had opportunities with Mr. Armstrong, with Jeremy Lemaster, and number 80 and number 82. This, I hate to weaken your hand in negotiating, but this is our only game in plan, the only game in town. We've got tremendous flooding It's been identified as the number one priority of this commission is to have clean water going into the river and to reduce flooding in that area to save the oak trees. So last week, the town engineer said, I need land. So going back to Mrs. Riley, this was basically the option that we have. So we've got the advantage of purchasing the lot, doing the STA in the front side, getting the outfall out to the river, and even extending the STA so that I've got Joe's assurance that we can stretch the boundaries of the water improvement project further south than Pineapple to Riverview. Riverview is a great source of flooding. I mean, people are up to almost their knees with some of the floods. So to have that piece of property at our disposal gives us a tremendous amount of flexibility, whereas the property owner did not want to have the long-term family home. She did not want to live in that house and experience, the collapse of her front yard and the construction and then walk away from it. I do think that once we can use that property to our fullest extent, and we've already done the 2 appraisals, we've already spent the money on the 2 appraisals, and we've already done the ordinance changing the minimum lot size for the construction. So the way I envision it is we build the STA, we get the outfall, we've got the zoning in hand to then sell a riverfront property for maybe 1.4 million. So it's a short-term indebtedness, and we can maximize the use of that property and hopefully stretch the project that much longer. So we can satisfy our grants, we can clean the water, we can finish the phase, and the resident just doesn't want to be part of that, and I could see that. Her attorney looked at Glenn's proposal when we wanted to do the STA and buy the front part of our property and said, this is a non-starter. Terry McCarthy said, this is a non-starter. So it's the right place at the right time. We've already spent the money working up to it, and I think that it gets us to our number one priority. So I just wanted to give that background, and thanks for your patience. I know you have a lot going on.
Oh, no problem.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yeah, just real quick. I mean, that all sounds good and makes sense. I appreciate that information. I also, real quick, I was under the impression when we were talking about purchasing the property beforehand, when we were going to get the front for the STA, one of the main holdups was we had something with the grant. We can't purchase the property because maybe we didn't have the funds, but we needed to get the grant to make sure we were going to get reimbursed. There was a holdup with the grant to purchase the property. And I'd be curious to see how that affects purchasing this property if we were going to use grants to, somehow how all that is going to make sense. Because I've sat for a long time, why isn't this happening? Why isn't this happening? We sat on it a long time, and there was holdups with grants or whatever, so I don't.
This door is opened and closed a couple of times. I don't want it to happen again, I don't think.
Yeah.
When the property owner's attorney says it's a non-starter after looking at the legal document, it put us back to 0. And then when I even called her last week and said, well, we can still do the outfall, can't we? She says, well, I don't know. So it took a lot of persuading to get this far. But, I mean, there's been a lot of back and forth.
So where are we now?
So right now, what I would like to do is I'd like to go ahead, and you can chime in for comments, is I'd like to direct staff to negotiate with the property owner on terms that the commission would later on approve to purchase that property, the whole property, it's slightly over 1 acre. It's 78 South Sewells Point Road. It's from the road to the river. So I'd like to make a motion to direct staff to negotiate with Mrs. Riley, a lot owner of number 78, to purchase the entire piece of property and to come back to the commission with terms that would benefit us. And I think that there's possibly some cash flow and some finance ideas, Commissioner Mayfield, that could be included in that negotiation. And so that would be my motion.
Curriculum night for my kids.
Mr. Daniels, is there anything you wanted to add?
Mr. Mayor, I think you have a motion on the floor, so technically it should go back to the commission and then
Commissioner Fender seconded the motion. I just have a comment. I'll keep it real brief. I think this is a good idea. I don't think there's a whole lot of exposure here for eventually having to sell off the house. You know, even if the real estate market goes down a little bit, it's still waterfront property, and that's not going to be too bad. I think the current assessments are like $2,170,000 and $2,160,000, so in that ballpark. And we were really committed to spending about $550,000 or so for the outfall in the STA. So I think this is a great idea, and I also think that Mrs. Riley's going to be very flexible with us in terms of her moving and some of the financial terms. So, yeah, I think this is a great idea. Any other comments?
Yes, I think in theory it's a good idea, and I will vote to move forward. I just want to make it very clear that, yeah, it's worth that much when we sell it, but then we also have to buy it for that, and that's a very huge expense. And I want to make sure that, I look at we really think about the finances before we approve it. But for the time being, that'll work, since we're not sealing the deal today.
Please call the roll.
I'm fine.
Commissioner Fender?
Aye.
Commissioner Mayfield?
Yes.
Mayor Tompeck?
Yes.
Commissioner Campo?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, and I guess that's the last time, unless there are any commission comments. I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Wait, one commission comment. One commission comment?
As many comments as you like, Mr. Campo.
So I will be out of town on September the 20th. I think there was another conflict. I think that's a final budget meeting, and I know we just lost her. But there was a suggestion to possibly merge the September 20th and September 27th meetings. If there's a way that we could avoid that and stick to our original schedule, I'd like to do that. The final budget meeting is typically a
You could have it at 4:30.
10-minute. No, I'm going to be in California. No, yeah, right. So I just wanted to throw out that I won't be there, and I know you need a quorum on these two meetings, if you need a quorum on any meeting. And I think Dave said he wasn't going to be here on this, was it the 7th? He said
The 7th, but now he will be here on the 7th.
Okay.
But he couldn't be here tonight.
Okay. So I didn't want the 20th to create any problems and just wanted to throw it out there. And then before we formally adopted a change to the schedule, I would like to continue to stay with the current format of second Tuesday and a second and fourth Tuesday for the month of September, because I'd like to be here. However, if the commission would like to merge the two, that's fine. I just want to throw that out there.
Well, I'm very flexible, so whatever you'd like to do is okay with me. It's really up to the rest of the commissioners what they can do.
We don't even have to decide right now, but I just want to throw out that.
Okay, any additional commission comments? If not, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
We're adjourned. Thank you.